at week number 2. We got our week 2 recap, and before I get started, I did want to let everybody know that unfortunately we did have a team drop out already this season. The California Cubones no longer be competing with us, so if you see any blank spaces or teams labeled NA, that is because that was slotted to be the Cubones. I unfortunately don't have the time to find a replacement coach, so for now, anyone that plays that team is just going to get an automatic victory, which does count as a +2 to your game differential. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and recap the week 2 matches. First matchup, we have the 10-star team versus the Mount Silver Spectres. Pretty dominant win for Totter there, and a huge performance from Mega Charizard Y. That Pokemon did a ton of damage in that matchup and was absolutely crucial to the victory. And of course, if you watched the week 1 recap, you'll know that that is in favor of my prediction. I did predict Totter to have a bounce back game and absolutely knocked it out of the park with that one. Big win for Totter there. And yeah, congratulations to him. And yeah, next up we had what was supposed to be JKG's match, the Los Angeles Charge Beams versus the California Cubones. Fortunately, no more Cubones in the league, so that is an automatic victory for JKG. But of course, ahead of time, I did predict JKG for that win. Last up in the Dark Division, we had the Cream City Milkers versus Sunset Rose Meowsticks. And of course, Cream City Milkers did come out on top in a 2-game set there. Actually, only 2-game sets this week, so lots of sweeps around the league. This one was a little bit closer than Totter's game, I'd say, especially in game 2, but of course, in game 1. But Dale, proven that this team is quite formidable and can take out some really heavy hitters, continues to roll into week number 3, where they'll be playing against a team that still does have a little ways to go to get into the groove of their team, but that should still be an interesting match. And of course, that is a correct prediction for me again. So we are 3 for 3 so far. We got all 3 matches in the Dark Division correct. Next up, we had the New York Pokerangers versus the Lafayette Litwicks, and shocking upset alert, the Litwicks actually defeat the Pokerangers in a 2-game set. It was a very, very great game that utilized some lower tier Pokemon and really showed off their strengths, kind of turning the tables on a Trick Room team with their own Trick Room. Farigiraf was absolutely huge in this match, and so was Shiinotic. And a small shout out to Mega Ampharos, also making an appearance and doing some work. So that is a prediction that I got wrong, and now the spotlight kind of shifts to Descenda, whom has currently beat 2 coaches from who have played in previous seasons, and quite convincingly. Descenda is on a roll, and you know, if they continue to roll like this, there's a really good argument that they're in the driver's seat for that #1 seed in the Light Division. Next up, we had the London Ludicolo versus Ninja Fusion. Pretty one-sided game here. The London Ludicolo getting that 2-0 victory, which does kind of keep them in that race for the #1 seed. After watching the game back, there's definitely a couple of plays where I think the game was actually a lot closer than it looks on paper. Of course, after you count up all the KOs and whatnot, the game looks a lot more one-sided, but I think there was a couple of decisions that could have either made the game even closer or completely swung it in the other direction. And it kind of shows you the knife's edge that a lot of teams are on, um, where you can be down 2 or 3 Pokemon and still 1 or 2 decisions can completely change the outcome of the game. I don't have the exact scenario off the top of my head, but if you haven't already, please go watch the London Ludicolo's versus the Ninja Fusion game. See if you can pick out what turns Pixie could have made a couple of different moves in order to change the outcome of that game, because I do think that was a lot closer than it appeared on paper. And then finally, you had your Manchester Bewears versus the delightful Delphox, and what a needed comeback game from your Bewears. We had a very, very dominant win, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that it was the most dominant win this week. Bewears absolutely clobbered their opponents with the bounce back statement win. Now we're hoping to do it again in week 3 and going forward. The schedule does not get any easier, so racking up the wins where we can is absolutely necessary. And we do have kind of a juggernaut coming up in week 3 with the 10-star team. Another Trick Room team that is looking pretty good so far. But speaking of week 3, we do have some predictions. So after 2 weeks, we have finally broken the course of getting 4 predictions correct every week and 2 every wrong. This week, we only got 1 prediction incorrect, and we got the other 5 correct. So that means that we are 9-3 on the season, only missing 3 games so far, and we've got 9 of them correct. And let's see if we can keep that up. Now, a few games have been played for week 3. I have hidden them in the document for spoilers, but it will be corrected here in a moment. But my predictions for week 3 are as follows. Manchester Bewears. Not only am I always going to predict myself, but I do feel some amount of confidence going into this. When I post the week 3 video, you will see my team building process. I actually decided to record a how to team build for this week, and after going through that, I actually think that we have a pretty decent matchup this week. So look out for that coming soon. Next up, I picked the Litwicks to win. They are on a roll, and I think that they are going to continue to roll. Now, this could be a trap game, as we saw in week 1, since it Rose Meowsticks do have the ability to set up, upset some really strong teams. And this could be a match where they do so, but I think Tasenda is kind of feeling it and is in the flow right now, so I'm going to predict them this week. And after that, I have the Mount Silver Spectres. I'm going to predict them to win. I do think that they have the edge over the Delightful Delphox, although this is kind of an awkward match for Totter. I think previously I would have said that it was easy win because you can easily lean into your Sun strategy, and your Sun strategy is always stronger than what the Delphoxes can put out with their Psychic Terrain strategy. But since you decided to kind of split your wires and go into Psychic Terrain your own, you actually ended up weakening your Sun strategy and making a Psychic Terrain strategy that isn't as good as the Delphoxes. So that could be a scary matchup, but I'm going to trust in Totter to get that done. And then for the 3rd week in a row, I am predicting the New York Poke Rangers to win. This is a really hard matchup, and if there was anything on their schedule that you were going to predict as a loss, I think you could argue that week 3 was it. But if there's anything that I know about Ada, it is that he knows how to make a comeback, and even though it was a tough week last week, I do think that he's capable of a bounce back, even against the buzzsaw that is the Los Angeles Charge Beam. So I'm going to go ahead and predict Ada there. Of course, we get a free space here for the London Ludicolo taking their free win versus the California Cubones. So very nice for them. And then finally, we have the Cream City Milkers versus Ninja Fusion game. Like I said, I do think this one could go either way. I think I am going to predict the Cream City Milkers here. They have a pretty impressive win rate so far, and they have beat two pretty formidable teams already. And I do think that it still might take at least one more week for Ninja Fusion to kind of get the hang of the team. It is kind of a harder team that they're playing. Hyper Offense is not always an easy mode to play. You still have to know when to take the KOs and when you need to pivot around your damage dealers. And I do think that that is a situation that they can absolutely take advantage of. So that is why I'm predicting that. But let's go ahead and take a look at some stats. And after that, I'm going to set you loose. Make sure that you cheer on your Bewears and all the other coaches. Taking a look at the top 5, we have a couple of Mega Pokemon sitting at the top. Of course, Mega Charizard with a huge week 2 jumps up to 10 KOs in that 2-game set, where Charizard, I believe, KO'd an additional 6 Pokemon to the 4 it already had from week 1. Huge game for them. Starmie continuing to perform, only grabbing 2 KOs this week, but still keeps them in 2nd place. And then, of course, tied for the amount of KOs, but not the placement, Fluttermane, Raging Volt, Mega T-Tar, and Ogerpon Cornerstone, all sitting with 6 KOs. Really big games for a couple of those Pokemon. Huge shout out to Fluttermane, who had a massive match versus the Sunset Rose Meowsticks. Did not get as many KOs as Charizard did, but arguably even more impactful than Charizard was. But yeah, that is all I have for you for this week 2 recap. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you stay tuned for the week 3 game. Like I said, keep an eye on the how to team build in Pokemon draft video coming up soon. I decided to record my perspective on how I team built for my week 3 matchup, so that should be fun. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.